Chinese foreign minister mysteriously axed. So now we look at a society which is Confucian, a country which is communist, at least nominally so. And what happened there was that on Tuesday, July 25th, the National People's Congress Standing Committee convened an emergency meeting and removed Qin Gang, or Qin Gang, as China's foreign minister. Wang Yi is the new face of Chinese diplomacy now. He's hardly a new face. He was foreign minister earlier. But first, let's discuss Qin. Qin disappeared from public view for the past month. He failed to attend a summit in Indonesia. Beijing pushed back his July 4 meeting with the EU foreign policy chief, Josep Borrell. The very brief explanation that came from Beijing blamed unspecified health problems. Qin was one of the most high-level officials in the Chinese Communist Party, so it was, shall we say, a bit strange for him to be absent for this long. And now, of course, Qin has been summarily dismissed. Note, when high-profile figures in China go out of public view for long periods of time, criminal investigation can follow. However, sometimes they reappear with no explanation. None other than Chinese President Xi Jinping himself vanished for a fortnight shortly before becoming the country's leader in 2012. At that time, there was speculation about his health and possible power struggles within the party. So, Qin has risen and fallen like Icarus. He was ambassador to the US, where he earned fame in China, infamy elsewhere perhaps, as a tough-talking wolf warrior diplomat. Before his ambassadorial position, Xi Jinping had used him as a foreign ministry spokesman, and Qin helped organize Xi's trips overseas, giving him the opportunity to work closely with the modern-day de facto Chinese emperor. So Xi engineered Qin's elevation, and naturally his fall has damaged
complete creature
Qin.
of Xi.
Well, I just was saying that the foreign minister is a complete creature of Xi. I think any official at this point in such a centralized totalitarian emperor's system is going to be a creature of Xi Jinping, because if one isn't, one is removed at best, or imprisoned, or killed. And I keep, to me, the index of the nature of the state, of the regime, and what explains many of the actions or confusing silences is that the poor Chinese blogger who is good-naturedly put up a picture of Winnie the Pooh beside a picture of Xi Jinping, saying, "Don't you think they look alike? They're so cute," is still in jail for having sullied the reputation of the emperor himself. So it could be as simple. Yeah.
Glenn, so why was this creature of Xi dismissed by Xi?
Well, it could be as simple. I don't believe that it is. It could be as simple as a scandal of the bed sheets. He may simply have had an affair with someone in a way that came to the attention that cast poor image on the Confucian conservative social order of the Xi Jinping.
Hopefully not Xi Jinping's daughter or relative.
If that were the case, I don't know if he would be around too long. But
we would be expecting an execution then.
I think more likely it's either. I think I can posit two elements in play, and I'm not certain to what extent each should be given weight, but I think they're factors. The first is the foreign minister may be a victim of increasing tensions and frustrations, pressures on Xi's government, Xi's regime, and its policies. As you pointed out, wolf warrior diplomacy, a very defensive, aggressive, arrogant demanding posture and series of policy positions on every issue beyond the borders of China has led to almost literally a universal hostile reaction.
Last month, sorry to butt in, but last month we talked about how China was backpedaling on that policy. We did a whole section on this whole new emphasis is somehow to pull back from the brink. And we also talked about how it is so difficult to compromise the two contrasting ambitions of the ruling and the rising power. But, it could be that Xi decided that very simply Qin was not the man, and he's brought back Wang Yi. And Wang was foreign minister from 2013 to 2022. He speaks Japanese. He was also until recently, actually, he is currently the head of the party's Central Foreign Affairs Commission, and he was promoted to the Politburo last year.
Well, the state is by definition in the Chinese context infallible, and so how does one alter direction or change policies without thereby undermining your own legitimacy, this regime's legitimacy? They cannot. But you can cut off the head of the foreign minister, change things, and blame a feckless, ineffectual, corrupt, or who knows what will come out, foreign minister for all of those specific things, and then reach an agreement of some sort with the United States, say, or with India, which you would not otherwise have done before, because your policy has moderated, even though you say it hasn't, while you point fingers to really what is a misleading explanation, which is the corruption or failure of a specific individual. And we don't just have signs that China's policies are changing. I mean, they are, because they're feeling the pressure of the fact that every state from Brunei to Vietnam to the Philippines to India to Malaysia to Australia to Japan to South Korea to the United States and on, is organizing itself militarily, politically, and economically to oppose China's aggressive behaviors in the South China Sea, the East China Sea, the Indian Ocean, along all of the borders, and so on. And that's just one example of a uniform growing hostility and resistance to Chinese policies, which are having effects. Chinese unemployment is up. Chinese inflation is not great. There is specifically very high unemployment among young adults.
Yeah, we've addressed all of that, and the real estate bubble, not to mention that.
And so China is responding. Thus, Secretary of State Blinken is able to go to China, as well as Janet Yellen and John Kerry and so on. So I think that the foreign minister is a victim of the need or the desire on the part of Xi to change policies to take some of the economic pressure off by maintaining more healthy relations with the rest of the world. I don't know if that's the case, but I don't see, other than a scandal of the bed sheets, I don't see any reason for him to have fallen when he was clearly the fair-haired boy and personally picked by Xi Jinping prior to a month ago.
So the interesting thing is that Wang is seen as a very capable official. He's not known to be intemperate. And would you say that his appointment bodes well for the stabilization of U.S.-China relations?
I don't have personal knowledge to evaluate the relative competence and skills of the man who's disappeared and the man who's come back. I assume that both of them are careful to hew to what their master tells them to do, and are probably yes, and that's right, and they are talented and at least effective managers of their institutions. But I don't think it matters really much. I think what we're seeing is a bending on the part of China's policies.
But here's a question, and this is important, because relationships and personal relationships do matter in diplomacy. People do matter. I mean, we can say that it's all interest, and it is in a way, but people have relationships as well, and Wang has more relationships with his foreign counterparts than Qin. He's been less abrasive than Qin, and if Xi wants continuity and predictability, of course we are reading tea leaves now. If Zhong Nangnai decides that right now is not the time to rock the boat, and the Chinese economy, if it implodes, might be a problem for the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP itself, then maybe that's why Wang is back.
That could well be. Pardon me. I don't know. Obviously, we don't know.
We don't know. We are conjecturing because it's such an opaque society, but it brings to light a fundamental issue as well, just as there are fractures and fissures in, say, France and Israel. It seems there are fractures and fissures in China as well, an authoritarian society. And it seems that all is not well because you cannot appoint someone for a few months and then suddenly kick him out. And you cannot have zero COVID and suddenly abandon it overnight. You cannot suddenly say that you will boost the economy and then basically realize quietly that you can't and do nothing. And so a lot of what is happening in China is a lot of incoherence on the part of Xi Jinping's decision-making process. It is very clear that not all is well. He has been making bad decisions, and his judgment is now subject.
I think it's a sign.
Suspect, sorry, not subject.
A sign or an indication of the pressure that China is feeling. China really means Xi and the government, from the almost uniform increasing hostility to Chinese actions. I think it's an indication of perhaps increasing inefficiencies that will come from this increasing totalitarian control of thought as well as action in all aspects of Chinese society, politics, and the economy. But I think it might mean lower growth rates, more inefficient responses, and perhaps perhaps more dissatisfaction on the part of Chinese people. I don't see it as threatening the regime at all. I mean, I always try to keep in mind the fact that under the Soviet Union, this is literally true. Coal was produced not far from then Leningrad, and coal was produced not far from, I forget where, somewhere in the Urals. Trains were filled with coal that was mined in the north, and trains were filled at the same time with coal mined in the south, and they were sent to their respective opposite points. The Ural coal was sent to Leningrad and vice versa. Along the way, literally 50% of all the coal on each train was stolen, and then the coal was delivered where it was not needed, and where it had not been produced when there was coal being produced adjacent to where it had been delivered. So that's a lunatic situation, which makes me laugh now. It's even 40 years after the fact. But nonetheless, the regime, because it was exceptionally centralized and had the monopoly of the use of force, the regime held all the guns. It continued for 75 years. And similarly with China, which is an infinitely more efficient, successful, dynamic society than the Soviet Union was, these things will show hints, I think, of pressures and increasing inefficiencies, but the fundamental objectives and policies probably won't change. They'll moderate on economic issues some, while continuing to kill the goose that lays the golden egg by centralizing ever more power in the state.
Excellent. Now, any questions from our audience here? Well, it seems we don't have any yet, but I have a question for you, Glenn. And the question is that has this happened before in the past? in China that a foreign minister has suddenly disappeared. Of course, we know of purges, we know of disappearances, we know what happened when Deng was sidelined and then he came back. But has this happened in recent memory that a foreign minister has suddenly disappeared?
Oh boy. Well, there have been a number of ministers who have been removed, and many of them in the anti-corruption campaigns from regional levels up to the central state since 2012, certainly. It's sort of the Chinese communist way to consolidate power, eliminate rivals, and address failures of the state. Is the state can't be wrong, so we have to eliminate somebody. So I don't see it as different, really. She is Mao and the emperor in one.
All right. On that note, we will bid you all adieu. We will see you next month for another version of FO Exclusive. And until then, keep writing to us, suggest topics you'd like us to cover. Follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow us on other social media, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc. And from Atul Singh and I suspect Glenn Carl as well, it's bye for now.
See you next month.
Join the conversation at Fair Observer and subscribe to our YouTube channel.